will start, if you don't mind.
I think we're getting there. It's been a while around. If you can just think about it, like a couple of years ago, the max TPS on Ethereum was like 10. Then it was still proof of work. Now we switched to proof of stake. A new networks arrived with delegated proof of stake, and that increased that part. And then on top of that, we have all the new research on ZK rollups, optimistic rollups, that is allowing like any L2 build like much more efficient systems with much more transactions per second. And now still on top of that, you have L3s using like data availability layers. So I think we're getting there. And as Somnia, a new blockchain with so much TPS per second, I think it's a good sign that the ecosystem is moving on that direction.
I can only build on that. I think there has been a lot of progress in the space overall in the infra side. Even just a few years, I remember I was speaking about user session management for dApps and how we can enable that. And now we have sign-in with Ethereum, which makes it so much easier to do. And that brings much more native user experience for the users because they don't have to approve every single interaction with the dApp. With their wallets anymore. I think there is a lot of progress being made in data space as well, and I think when it comes to any applications, decentralized or not decentralized, data is at the core, and I think a lot of projects in the ecosystem have been solving really tough problems of how to make on-chain data more accessible, how to make it easier for developers to use it for improving user experience and so on. So that's why today we have projects like Orbis. I'm a big fan of Orbis, so probably I'll mention them quite a few times. But just really making it more easy for developers that are building apps to access that data in a more structured way and use it for improving applications. So I think we are getting there. Also, all of the wallets, I think the implementations are getting better. I was listening to one of the talks at ETHCC about the need for more composability in wallet implementation as well. And I think probably this is the area where we can all build more. Making sure that developers that are building dApps, they don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time, and that we can improve on wallet implementation. Same applies to data layer as well. When developers build apps, they most of the time have to start with defining their schema for their dApp from scratch. And what we talk about quite a lot at Ceramic is that it should be more composable, that we should all speak about the standards that we can set for how, for example, data models or those data schemas could look like, so that developers could follow those standards and have more of a plug-and-play experience, maybe take existing schemas, plug into their applications, and focus on building better user experiences rather than implementing data schemas from scratch every single time. So I think we have to continue to do work there and have those conversations. And also in the previous panel, there was a really good point, which I agree completely, is that I think there are a lot of tools for developers to use today, and I think infrastructure in general is in a pretty good state. But I think the challenge that developers have in Web3 is that they are very segmented. So we have, let's say, data layers, we have compute providers, but we have to maybe think about how we can provide developers with a more structured and easier to use overall infrastructure, because in Web2, well, let's be honest, AWS and Google Cloud, they make it pretty easy. You have the entire suite of tools that you can use and build pretty quickly. So I think this is where we probably have to think about how we can make it easy in Web3 as well.
I kind of agree that the infrastructure is getting there, but we're still missing a lot of, as you kind of mentioned, plug and play tooling that will enable developers to build consumer applications. Because what consumer application builders should be focusing is the consumers. user acquisition, user experience, retention, and just make sure that the applications are usable on the front end layer without knowing all the aspects of how to build the backend for those applications. And it's great to see that there's been more and more movement in this space with applications or infrastructure providers building abstraction layers. We at Mimic are building this DeFi aggregation layer. So there's more and more startups that are providing this easy implementable infrastructure that allows application builders to focus solely on what they should be, which is the users. So we're definitely going in the right direction, but I definitely think we're not there yet. And I think this cycle is going to be focused on consumer applications. So it's important now to build, this infrastructure that's going to be plug and play, easily integratable. So those app builders can just choose those solutions like in an app store and just easily integrate them.
Yeah, so I think I'm the one non-developer here, so I can talk about very consumer-based marketing-wise. I always talk to the founders that even though you have great technology or infra, if no one uses it, what's the point of it, right? I mean, still you guys are building a lot of tools and infra for the developers, but still if developers not using it at the end of the day, you're putting a lot of efforts to do things that no one's gonna use at the end of the day. So I think in terms of, I think it's more like chicken and egg. So if you already have a user and they have a lot of bottleneck in terms of using application, that's why you need to build infrastructure for them or developer-focused tool to enhance that. Or you already have this infrastructures and you can enhance the experience for the user. So I think we're in a great place right now because when you look at it, a few years ago, there is no way that you can log into your DF with email address, right? And then there is a lot of account abstraction solutions out there that now developer can use them easily. But beforehand, you can think of that a lot of there is bounce rate of the user because they couldn't use the MetaMask from the beginning. I remember that I was talking to a bunch of different gaming studios back in the days, 3 years ago, that I was asking them, hey, there is a thing, NFT, and they were interested in it. But from the beginning, I have to tell them, you have to make MetaMask and you can sell your digital asset, then go to exchange and withdraw money. This whole process was too much for them. And probably I spoke to thousands of different gaming studio, and out of that, only 3 did the NFTs. So we are growing super fast, and I love that there is more regulation and tools that people can use. But at the end of the day, you have to make it as easy as possible, and that's the way to go.
Thank you, everybody, for those answers. And also thank you to the person who just walked through with a really cute dog. I don't think there are enough dApps in Web3 yet. There's also not enough dogs, so if anybody wants to work on that. But yeah, thank you guys. I was thinking about asking this at the end, but it makes more sense now, I think. What do you think that developers need to do in Web3 to create a good onboarding experience to be able to bring in more people from either from Web3 or from Web2? How do we get grandmas using DeFi wallets or whatever? Yeah, here.
I will just have 2 words: smart accounts. That's definitely the way that we can bring new people on board. Just creating a wallet, just creating a smart account, and then sign it with your passkey from your phone. That's something that everyone is used to, right? Everyone is storing passwords in apps, in phones. So we should give to the users the same optionality and the same functionalities that they are used to. And now we can see that with passkeys, as a module for any other smart account, that can be done. So I think that's the basic layer that will allow new and people come on board with an easy and familiar application and functionality.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's one of the most important things is just to make the experience familiar and seamless. So everything that has been mentioned here, I completely agree, and I would only repeat that. I also think that another important thing when speaking about Web3 apps is to also for all of us to understand what is really the benefit of for someone to use a Web3 app. So like, what does Web3 bring? And I really like the conversation today around enabling enabling users to own their data and then do something with that data, either to monetize it or sell it if they want to. And I think we have seen some dApps that actually did spike quite a bit. So one of them, I think you all know, is Steppen. And it was so popular at one time, and it was because it was fairly easy to understand what it is. You just get the shoes, you walk around, and you earn. And then you either cash it out or buy other things with it. So super simple to understand, but also it was an actual value attached to it for the users. Obviously, there are reasons why it's not really that popular anymore, I believe. But I think there is something to learn from that, is that if we can build experiences that are familiar, easy to grasp, and also easy to use, and then if there is actual value for the user from that, I think there is something that we can unpack, and I think will bring more users into Web3. They really shouldn't be thinking about like, okay, today I'm going to use a Web3 app. They should be feeling like they are using a great app, and oh, it's actually built on Web3. So that's awesome.
Yeah, there's not much to say about or to add to what you guys said. I think, abstracting as much as blockchain as possible is the way, especially to onboard Web2 users. I don't think majority of the users care about all the benefits that Web3 crypto native people are looking at. They just want a good experience. They want to use some of the functionalities that it's offering. But they don't like always particularly care about like self-custody or like writing passkeys, writing seed phrases. They want to use passkey, they want to use their email because they're comfortable with it. They're not like super concerned about security in this way. Which is good, which is bad, depending on how we look at it. But like abstracting as much as possible and making the experience, like we have to replicate Web 2 patterns in the way how applications are built. Even though if we sometimes might not like it, it works and people are used to it. And we have to make the applications usable, whether these are wallets and DeFi applications, gaming, etc. We have to always remember that we're building them for users, and it's the users who need to be comfortable using them, and then just abstract the whole backend blockchain layer of it.
Yeah, I think what Łukasz says makes sense. I think there's two ways to onboard more Web2 users to Web3s. One is to actually building a product that's useful for normal users. I know we call it Web 2 and Web 3, but what are the differences? Like everyone is a user. So if you're building, not my mom won't use like multi-sig wallet. Like she doesn't get she always think that I work for Bitcoin. You know what I mean? So you don't need to give them a DM that doesn't necessarily to use daily basis or even remember the ICO era. It's like there is so many different concepts that already existing out there. Why would you need them in Web3 or on blockchain? So actually having an application that's useful for norms, every users. And second is that I think a lot of Web3 foundations now focus on user experiences in general. We have a lot of core developers, backend developer, etc. But we don't really have. I've barely seen anyone has the user experiences like specialists. So then we can actually get the data or implementing that like enhancement for user journey is important too. So as my company, we take a look at all the data analytic tools. So look at Google Analytics, Mixpanel, and see that where is the bottleneck for people to do things. It was a fun story that people doesn't like to wait. So when we have an avatar builder. So when you're building avatar, it takes a long time. It's loading as MetaMask. And people like mass clicking like 1,000 times because they don't want to wait. and how we can enhance that to have a fast blockchain, right? So it doesn't have to be bringing Web2 users to Web3. It's all experiences very useful for everyone, but fast enough and easy enough is the key.
Thank you. I don't know, do you guys want me to continue asking the questions, or we're kind of short on time, so maybe I'll turn the questions to the audience if anybody has any questions for the panelists. There's this. I don't know if anybody has any questions. We've got about 5 minutes left. Oh, okay. Anyone? Okay, we'll do one more question then. I wasn't sure because the panel is supposed to go till I think 12:30. Anyway, yeah. So my.
I have a question to you guys. So what do you think is the next big thing? We had DeFi, NFT.
That was my question.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
But I want to ask you,
beat me
Holly.
to it.
Holly, what's your thing?
Ooh, this is pressure. I personally think that, I don't know if this is the next big thing, but I definitely see a lot of space for like medical record type apps. I think that's a really good use case for open data. Yeah, I think that will be like a future thing, but maybe not the next trend. I don't know if we're there yet, but yeah.
I know that a project called Alex Zero is actually building something with German health resorts or something like this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're building a layer for the medical data to be
Cool.
stored.
That's awesome.
So you can definitely follow up with her, with them on that. But
Yeah,
that's the
I will.
space they're exploring in Germany.
Nice, cool.
But kind of to answer the question, what's going to be the next big thing? I don't think. I mean, it's hard to predict what's going to be the next big thing. I don't think we're ready for the next big thing. I think like we should still focus on making better what we've been building so far, but make it better. Like DeFi apps, gaming. Scaling is one part, but it's like an infra. In the terms of the consumer applications, there's still a long way until we achieve the I'm not gonna say global adoption, but like wider adoption in terms of like what we've been building for years. I mean, like DeFi, it's working, but we still haven't onboarded as many people as we could, and we know that the technology is great, especially in developing countries. It's helping so much the local economies. So yeah, gaming is still, we'll probably just scratch the surface. So there's still a lot of things that we can do in the existing applications that we've been building, and yeah, it's just at the end of the day, blockchain is a database, and there's still so many use cases to explore with these open decentralized databases.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's gonna be the next trend, but what I'm excited about, and maybe I would make my bet that it will probably grow in the future, is all of the creator space, because we do have so many people speaking about, first of all, in Web3 space, and maybe I'm biased because I had so many conversations about that during ETHCC, is that we have all of this user data and how we can actually enable users to monetize it, and I think all of the creator space, from video to blog to everything else, music, I think it's probably a really great application there to make it easier for artists to get paid in a more fair way and faster and easier through that, and the same for the rest of the creators. And the same applies to users themselves. I've been hearing so many people speaking about how unfair, how YouTube distributes the revenue and everything else. So I think this is a great application. I would really love to see it growing, and I think we are getting there. And then another one is, I think, gaming, of course, because it has been so popular so far, and I think there is a lot that needs to be done in that space yet. So I think we'll see some cool things happening and more gameplay style games, hopefully.
I'm gonna be short. So for me, it's gonna be like social dApps, but only if people realizes that, that are outside Web3, that they're not the owners of their data in any social platform. I think they are not really aware of that, and that's something that we can provide as like Web3 infrastructure, the protocols like Forecaster, Lens. You have the ownership of your data, you have the ownership of your profile. Even at the protocol level, nothing is going to happen. At the client level, there can be some rules that's gonna filter and censor some stuff. But if people don't realize that, I think it's not going to happen. But once they do, why would you have your profile owned by Facebook or Meta instead of you being the owner? And I think that's can be the point, the turning point for like social mass adoption on dApps, on social dApps.
Yeah, I just want to add something to that. I actually noticed recently, I've been sort of around more younger people, like teenagers and stuff, that are more cautious about having their pictures taken and uploaded. I think that's really interesting because that's the generation that grew up with like their face on all over social media and without their consent. At the time, I don't think parents were really thinking about it, and then some of them were using it because they thought it would like be a good way to make money if they were family vlogging or whatever. So I think that maybe with the younger generation, there is an appetite for having like more data ownership, and I think there is more of an awareness of the way that these like giant corporations are profiting off of your data, like super personal data. So maybe that is the next frontier. Yeah. But anyway, thank you all for coming, everybody, and thank you to the panelists. I hope that you guys get to go outside and get some air and maybe jump in a pool at your hotel.
Please do.
Thank you.